There's a modification you can do to your Mazda right now that's completely legal, but in 6 months it'll be banned, outlawed, illegal to install, illegal to sell. And if you get caught with it, you could face serious fines. This isn't some conspiracy theory or clickbait. This is real legislation that's already been passed and is going into effect in multiple states starting in 2026. And it affects one of the most popular Mazda modifications that enthusiasts have been doing for decades. Thousands of Mazda owners have already done this mod. It's all over YouTube, all over forums, and shops have been installing it for years without any issues. But that's all about to change. If you want to do this modification, you have a very limited window to get it done before the ban takes effect. And here's the controversial part. I'm going to show you exactly what it is, why they're banning it, and how to do it legally while you still can. Some people will say I shouldn't be sharing this, that I'm encouraging people to break the law. But here's the truth. This mod isn't being banned because it's dangerous. It's being banned because of politics, emissions regulations, and government overreach. And you have every right to know about it before your options disappear. Today, I'm revealing the Mazda modification that's about to become illegal, why the government is banning it, and what you need to do in the next 6 months if you want it. This is time sensitive, this is important, and this is information that could save you thousands of dollars. Let's get into it. The mod: aftermarket exhaust systems, cat deletes, and high-flow cats. Here's the modification that's being banned: aftermarket exhaust systems that remove or replace the catalytic converter. Specifically, 2 types: catless exhaust systems. These completely remove the catalytic converter and replace it with a straight pipe. High-flow catalytic converters. These replace the factory catalytic converter with a less restrictive aftermarket unit. For years, these modifications have been legal for off-road use only in most states. The understanding was, you can install them on your car as long as you don't drive it on public roads, or as long as your state doesn't have emissions testing. That loophole is closing. Starting in 2026, new federal regulations under the Clean Air Act are cracking down hard on aftermarket exhaust modifications. What's changing? Selling or installing catalytic converter replacements that don't meet EPA standards will be illegal nationwide, even for off-road use. States will be required to enforce these regulations through stricter emissions testing and roadside inspections. Fines for shops that install non-compliant exhaust systems will increase from hundreds to tens of thousands of dollars per violation. Online retailers will be required to verify that parts meet EPA standards before selling them. This isn't just talk. The EPA has already started issuing massive fines to exhaust companies. In 2024, several major aftermarket exhaust manufacturers were fined millions of dollars for selling non-compliant parts. And starting in 6 months, the enforcement ramps up even more. If you want to modify your Mazda's exhaust, you need to do it now, before the window closes. Why this mod is so popular with Mazda owners. Before we talk about the ban, let's talk about why so many Mazda owners do this modification. Better sound. Skyactiv engines are efficient, but they're quiet. Almost too quiet. A catless or high-flow cat exhaust gives your Mazda a deeper, more aggressive sound without being obnoxiously loud. It sounds like a performance car instead of an appliance. Increased power. Removing the restrictive factory catalytic converter allows exhaust gases to flow more freely. On a naturally aspirated Skyactiv engine, you might see 5 to 10 horsepower gains. On a turbocharged engine like the CX-90 or Mazda 3 Turbo, you can see 15 to 25 horsepower with a high-flow cat and tune. Weight reduction. Factory catalytic converters are heavy. Removing them can save 20 to 30 pounds. For Miata and Mazda, 3 owners chasing every ounce of weight savings. That matters. Tuning flexibility. If you're running a performance tune, a high-flow or catless exhaust allows the tuner to be more aggressive with timing and fuel mapping. You unlock power that the restrictive stock exhaust was holding back. I get it. These are legitimate performance benefits. But the government doesn't care about your horsepower gains or how your car sounds. They care about emissions. And that's why the hammer is coming down. Before we continue, if you want the complete guide to Mazda performance mods, maintenance schedules, and everything you need to keep your Mazda running strong for 500,000 miles, I've put together a free blueprint. Click the link in the description to download your 500,000 mile car maintenance blueprint right now. It's completely free and it covers legal performance upgrades, maintenance intervals, and more. Alright, let's keep going. Why the government is banning this. Here's what the EPA and state regulators say. Catalytic converters reduce harmful emissions like nitrogen oxides, NOx, carbon monoxide, CO, and hydrocarbons, HC. Removing or replacing them with non-compliant units increases pollution. One modified car produces as much pollution as 10 to 20 stock cars, according to EPA estimates. With millions of modified vehicles on the road, the cumulative environmental impact is significant. That's their reasoning. And look, I'm not going to pretend that removing a catalytic converter doesn't increase emissions. It does. But here's the part they're not telling you. The vast majority of pollution doesn't come from passenger cars with modified exhausts. It comes from commercial trucks, cargo ships, industrial facilities, and agriculture. Passenger cars, even modified ones, are a tiny fraction of total emissions. But those industries have powerful lobbies. Individual car enthusiasts don't. So guess who gets regulated? This ban isn't about saving the environment. It's about optics and politics. They need to show they're doing something about emissions. So they go after the easiest target, individual car owners who can't fight back. Meanwhile, a single cargo ship crossing the ocean produces more emissions in one trip than all the modified Mazdas in America combined. But you won't see them banning cargo ships. If you're enjoying this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. This helps me bring you more honest car advice for my Mazda guys. What happens if you get caught after the ban? Starting in 2026, here's what you're risking if you have a non-compliant exhaust. Failed emissions testing. If your state requires emissions testing, a catless or high-flow cat system will fail immediately. You won't be able to register your car until you reinstall a compliant catalytic converter. Roadside inspections. Some states are implementing roadside emissions spot checks. If an officer suspects your exhaust is modified, they can inspect it on the spot. If you're running a catless setup, you'll get cited. Fines. Fines vary by state, but expect $500 to $2,500 for a first offense. Repeat offenses can result in higher fines and even impoundment of your vehicle. Shop liability. If a shop installs a non-compliant exhaust after the ban, they can be fined $10,000 to $50,000 per vehicle. Most shops will simply refuse to do the work rather than risk those fines. Resale issues. When you try to sell your modified Mazda, the buyer will have to deal with emissions compliance. If they can't register it, your car's value plummets. This is serious. This isn't just a slap on the wrist. If you're going to do this mod, you need to understand the risks. The legal way to do this, while you still can. Here's the loophole that's still open for the next 6 months. You can legally install an aftermarket exhaust with a high-flow catalytic converter that meets EPA standards. Not all high-flow cats are being banned, only the ones that don't meet emission standards. There are EPA-compliant high-flow catalytic converters that give you most of the performance benefits while still passing emissions. Brands that make EPA-compliant high-flow cats, MagnaFlow, their CARB, legal high-flow cats, are some of the best in the industry. Cobb Tuning makes EPA-compliant catted downpipes for turbocharged Mazdas. Corsa Performance offers compliant high-flow options for certain models. These aren't as free-flowing as a straight pipe, but they're a huge improvement over stock. You'll get better sound, a modest power increase, and you'll still pass emissions. Here's how to do it legally. Find an EPA-compliant or CARB legal high-flow cat for your specific Mazda model. Verify the part has the proper EPA or CARB certification number stamped on it. Keep all documentation and receipts proving it's a compliant part. Install it now, before the regulations tighten further. This is the smart way to modify your exhaust without risking fines or registration issues. But you need to act fast. Once the ban takes full effect, even finding these parts will get harder as retailers crack down on what they're allowed to sell. The track car loophole and why it's risky. Some people will tell you, just register it as a track-only car and you're fine. Technically, vehicles that are used exclusively for racing or off-road use are exempt from emissions regulations. But here's the problem. Proving your car is truly track-only is difficult. If you're driving it on public roads to get to the track, you're not exempt. If it's registered and insured for street use, you're not exempt. If you ever use it for anything other than racing, you're not exempt. The EPA and state regulators are getting smarter. They're cracking down on people who claim track use only, but are really just daily driving modified cars. If you get caught driving a track car on public roads with a non-compliant exhaust, you're looking at serious fines. Is it worth the risk? That's for you to decide. But don't fool yourself into thinking the track car loophole is bulletproof. It's not. What about states without emissions testing? Some of you live in states that don't require emissions testing. Montana, South Carolina, Mississippi, and a few others have no state-level emissions testing at all. Does that mean you're safe? Not entirely. While your state might not test emissions, federal law still applies. If federal agents or EPA inspectors decide to crack down in your area, you could still face fines. Plus, if you ever move to a state with emissions testing, you'll have to deal with compliance then. And finally, many states without testing now are considering implementing it in the future as federal pressure increases. So even if you're safe today, you might not be in 5 years. The financial reality. Is it worth it? Let's talk money. Cost to install a catless or high-flow exhaust. Parts. $500 to $1,500 depending on quality and brand installation. $200 to $500 at a shop tune, if needed. $400 to $800. Total, $1,100 to $2,800. Potential costs if you get caught. Fine, $500 to $2,500. Cost to reinstall stock exhaust, $300 to $600. Tune back to stock, $200 to $400. Lost resale value, potentially thousands. Total risk, $1,000 to $5,500 plus. For most people, the risk isn't worth the reward. You're spending thousands of dollars for maybe 10 to 20 horsepower and a better exhaust note. Then you're risking fines, registration issues, and resale problems. If you're building a dedicated track car that will never see the street, go for it. But if this is your daily driver, think very carefully about whether it's worth it. Legal alternatives that give you similar benefits. If you want better sound and a bit more power without the legal risks, here are your options. Axle-back exhaust system. These replace the section of exhaust after the catalytic converter. They're 100% legal, give you a deeper sound, and cost $300 to $800. No emissions issues, no legal problems. Cold air intake. A quality cold air intake can give you 5 to 10 horsepower on a Skyactiv engine. Legal, easy to install, and costs $200 to $400. ECU tune. On-stock exhaust. A good tune can unlock 10 to 20 horsepower on a stock exhaust system without touching the catalytic converter. Legal in most states. Costs $400 to $800. Catback exhaust with stock cat. Replace everything behind the catalytic converter for better sound and minor performance gain. Completely legal. Costs $500 to $1,200. These options won't give you the same gains as a catless setup, but they're legal, safer, and won't cause headaches down the road. What you should do in the next 6 months. If you're serious about modifying your Mazda's exhaust, here's your action plan. Option 1. Do it legally. Buy an EPA-compliant or CARB-legal high-flow catalytic converter. Install it now while parts are still available. Keep all documentation proving compliance. Option 2. Go with legal alternatives. Install an axleback or catback exhaust that keeps the stock cats. Add a cold air intake and tune for additional power. Enjoy better sound and performance without legal risk. Option 3. Wait and see. Don't modify anything yet. Watch how the regulations actually get enforced. Make a decision later when you have more information. Personally, I recommend option 1 or option 2. The legal alternatives are good enough for most people, and they won't cause you problems in the future. But if you're dead set on maximum performance, an EPA-compliant high-flow cat is your best bet. Just make sure you do it in the next 6 months, before the regulations tighten even further. And if you want the complete guide to legal Mazda performance mods, maintenance schedules, and everything else you need to know, don't forget to grab your free 500,000-mile car maintenance blueprint from the link in the description. It covers legal upgrades, what to avoid, and how to keep your Mazda running strong for decades. Download it now while it's still available. The bottom line. In 6 months, aftermarket exhaust modifications that remove or replace catalytic converters will be effectively banned nationwide. Shops won't install them, retailers won't sell them, and if you get caught with one, you'll face fines and registration issues. If you want to modify your Mazda's exhaust, you need to act now. Either go with an EPA-compliant high-flow cat, or stick with legal alternatives like axleback exhausts and cold air intakes. Don't risk thousands of dollars in fines for marginal performance gain. The window is closing. Make your decision soon. If you found these tips helpful, be sure to watch this next video as we're sharing insider tips to help you cut repair costs and keep your car running like new.